Move through this rather quickly. We are going to start with, appointments. Thank you. And we have an appointment to the Fair Election Fund, and it's Clarence Staggerwald, AKA Bud Staggerwald. Mr. Staggerwald, would you come up here? And I'm going to offer Mr. Crandall. Oh, Mr. Staggerwald.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to speak first or hear from Mr. Staggerwald?
We'll hear from Mr. Staggerwald, and then if you'd like to comment, that would be great. Mr. Staggerwald, if you want to say a few words about yourself or a Fair Election Fund, or the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and distinguished guests and all. It is truly an honor and privilege to be here with you today. I'm Bud Staggerwald, and many of you may know me, and most of the council I've met over the years. I'm here today because I've been nominated to be one of the commissioners for the newly formed Fair Election Funding Commission. I would like to take an opportunity in a couple minutes to tell you about myself. Many of you know me from running for office or working at other campaigns, but community service and my work history goes well beyond that. I'm a maintenance supervisor for BG&E and have been employed with them for the past 33 years. In my current position, I oversee budgets exceeding $500,000 for maintenance and capital projects. I oversee a team of talented tradesmen consisting of electricians, machinists, and mechanics. I myself am a master electrician. I'm also a 33-year veteran of the Baltimore County Volunteer Fire Service. I have served in multiple positions in the fire service, such as currently president of the North Point Edgemere Volunteer Fire Department. I've held this position for a total of 14 years. I've also served as vice president for 6 years, and I have served on the board of governors for 20 plus years. I am a past president of the Baltimore County Volunteer Firefighters Association, serving in 04 and 06 and 08 and 10, as well as having served as senior vice president and finance committee chairman. I'm also the volunteer chair of the Sky's the Limit Community Theater for the past 30 years. This is a program housed in the North Point Government Center and is sponsored by the Baltimore County Recreation and Parks Therapeutic Services. I'm also a past 15-year member of and a 5-year chairman of the Southeast Area Advisory Council for the Baltimore County School Board. And I've been a member of many other community events and activities, too numerous to name, and I just wanted to highlight a few here tonight. In closing, I'm excited and looking forward to another opportunity to serve Baltimore County and its citizens as a member of the Fair Election Finance Committee. Thank you all very much for your time this afternoon, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank County Executive Olszewski and Councilman Crandall for your confidence and endorsement of me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Staggerwald. That's an impressive background. Do any of the members have any thoughts, comments, or questions? Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to call you Bud. We've known each other for a long time, and I've known your family for a long time. And I am pleased that when we discussed your nomination or potential nomination to the Fair Election Fund Commission, that you wanted to take it on, and that you were rather excited by the opportunity to serve, which is certainly refreshing, but not surprising given your numerous accomplishments and years of service to the community. And I do want to say just specifically appropriate in your resume to the job at hand with the Fair Election Fund Commission is, and you mentioned this, that you've been a candidate, you've been involved in political campaigns, you understand politics, but you've also run the finances for numerous organizations and have been in charge of different budgets, both nonprofit and within your current profession. So I think that span of knowledge and experience that you bring to the Fair Election Fund Commission makes you an ideal candidate to serve and to figure out how much money to suggest to the county executive what the budget for the Fair Election Fund should be. So I'm extremely pleased to nominate you, sir. With that, I just would hope that my colleagues would join me in voting in the affirmative on Monday evening for Mr. Steigerwald. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman, for the recognizing my skill sets and thanking of me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any additional thoughts, comments, or questions? Councilman Jones?
Yes, I would just like to echo Councilman Crandall's comment. I too have known him for quite some time and certainly support his nomination.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Any additional comments, questions, thoughts? Let me just say, Mr. Steigerwald, I haven't known you all that long, but I did work with your wife in the governor's office, Debbie, and Debbie was a top-notch professional. She was delightful to work with. She was very assured at her work, and if she chose you as her husband, then that's okay in my book.
She keeps me on top of my game, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you to the Steigerwald family for all the things you've done to help the community.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks again, Mr. Steigerwald. Just to let everybody know the order we're going to roll in tonight. So we have completed appointments, and now the order will be Bill 124 will be next. Then following Bill 124, we're going to have Bill 524. And following Bill 524, we're going to have Bill 424. So it'll be a bill sponsored by Councilman Catch first, then we're going to go to DPWT, and then we'll start the master plan. Following public testimony, we will go into routine county business.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes, Councilman Catch.
delay Bill 1-24 for 2 weeks.
Thank you so much. So let me amend what I just said. We're going to delay 124. So I think we had one speaker signed up for that. So I don't know if that speaker was remote or was virtual or in person. Virtual. So that speaker is off for the evening unless he'd like to listen in on the testimony we'll hear on the other bills. So the next bill we have is Bill 524, and it's DPWT, and it's an extension of a sanitary sewer system in Baltimore County in the Middle River area. And we have from DPWT, we have Ms. DeAndrea Walker, the director.
And just a housekeeping item, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Catch will be making a motion on Monday related to Bill 124, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
A motion to extend.
Mr. Catch, Councilman Catch accepts. Yes, Ms. Walker?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. DPWT is bringing forward Resolution 524, which approves. Sorry about that. DPWT is bringing forth Resolution 524. It approves an extension of the county's sanitary sewer system to 25 properties on Benji's Road in Middle River. Section 20-1-119 of the Baltimore County Code authorizes the extension of the water and sewer system to serve existing housing units without meeting the normal requirement of the District Act that the project be self-supporting. However, the extension must be deemed necessary for the protection of public health. As such, this extension is conditioned upon the holding of a public hearing, in which we held that public hearing on December 11th. And it also requires that we notify those affected property owners of all project costs, and it requires approval by the county council via a resolution, this resolution. So just for some background, the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability in 2018 determined that a health problem existed in this area. And with the extension of the sanitary sewer system, this will alleviate those problems related to the existing sewage disposal systems. This project consists of a pressurized sewer main, of approximately 1,500 feet and a 1.5-inch low-pressure sewer along the Benji's Road area and Galloway Road area, and it will serve 25 properties. The project will require also installation of a grinder pump on each property. There are an additional 14 properties that will front the new sewer system. However, they are vacant and they will not be serviced. What typically happens is, should the vacant properties be developed in the future, they will be required to connect to the public sewer and to cover their respective shares of construction costs. Each would be required to follow our development plan review process, which includes a capacity evaluation prior to being approved for connection. The construction cost for this project in particular is $1.9 million. And the Metropolitan District will assume $465,000 of the cost, and the 25 property owners will pay the balance of the 1.5 through their front foot assessment and association loan costs. This resolution shall take effect at the date of passage by the County Council. I'd like to also say that there were several questions that came from the auditors couple of hours ago. So I want to address a few of those for you as well. One of the questions was the department advised that the project was funded in prior years, and they wanted to know which year was this project funded, and it was funded in the FY23 capital budget. The other question was the project was initially discussed in 2018 at a request of a homeowner who was having difficulty selling his home. Subsequently, the same year, the homeowner successfully sold his home. Why is the county now moving forward quickly with the project? I will beg to differ that we're not necessarily moving forward quickly with the project. DEPS did their thorough analysis of the project in June 2018. And then what happens when DEPS sends us a memo saying that there is a health issue, we then design the project internally to save costs. So we spent time designing this project in-house, and that design was not finalized until January 2022. For quite some time, we had a backup in projects in terms of our consent decree and other projects that we were working on. So based on that design, the Office of Real Estate then began working with the impacted property owners for entry agreements. And then after getting those initial letters, we then sent out follow-up letters of August of 22 by Real Estate Compliance. That information was submitted to MDE in April of 2022, but wasn't cleared until December of 2022 by MDE. We held that community meeting in December of 2023, and then as a result, we were able to bid and know the exact cost that would be affecting these properties. So that was the timeline from 2018 to today. And then the question was asked, how do we prioritize neighborhood health sewer extensions? And those are based on the memos that we received from DEPS. They require internal design of the project. We don't send them out to consultants. Our staff actually designs the projects in-house, so it takes longer for those projects to move forward. And so we prioritize them as they come from DEPS. And then the next question, the department advised that there are 14 properties in the area that are not included in the current project. Could the request to connect to the system at a later date, and could other nearby properties potentially also petition to connect to the system as a result of the county's approval of the proposed extension? Yes, any property can petition us to be added to public sewer, including those in this particular neighborhood. And we often get petitions for projects, and when those petitions come through, if they're approved, the property owner is required to pay 100% of that. There was a last question about how it's budgeted, general funds versus metro funds. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. That's an OBF, and I didn't get a chance to get that question to OBF. So I'll take any other questions that you all may have.
Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Ms. Walker? Councilman Marks.
Well, thank you. I first would like to thank my constituents who are here in this room that we were thankfully able to contact about this work session. I look forward to hearing from you all. I have a number of questions about this and many concerns. First of all, Ms. Walker, you talk about all this work that went on over the past 2 years, yet none of it seemed to involve my office. I found out about this project late last year. I happened to go to the community meeting in mid-December, and then lo and behold, we're here in January discussing whether to advance this project. My experience with the Department of Public Works and Transportation over the past 13 years has been that it moves at a very relatively slow and deliberative pace. And yet here we are being asked to rush through this project. And I have a lot of concerns. So that's my first question. Why wasn't there any substantial contact with my office, with groups like the Essex Middle River Civic Council and so on?
So we do our regular public outreach meeting, and sir, as you know, whenever you send me an email, we give you information. This project has been on our agenda for quite some time, as you know. The memo indicated that the sewer system was failing, the soil was failing in 2018. So what I can tell you that if you would like more conversation about what's going on in the area, it's not a concern with mine, but what I will tell you is that we have bids. It was posted. Those bids are good through March 1st. If you would like to delay it to have more conversation about it, that's fine, but we will have to rebid the project.
Yeah, that was the request I made of the county executive staff. I didn't want this to happen today. I wanted this delayed. I mean, I have here a copy of the budget, and it lists 4 sanitary sewer categories: Browns Road, Annetta Road Sewer Extension, Schroeder Avenue Sewer Extension, which is in Perry Hall, Liberty Road Sewer Extension, and then the contingency fund. Is that funded through the contingency fund, this project?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
It says contingency. It doesn't say Benji's Road. It says contingency. So that's my first point. You've addressed the question about how this came about. It came about because 6 years ago, a property owner asked about this. If this is such an emergency, why did it wait 6 years to get to us?
Again, we do the design in-house. Designing a sewer system is not something that's easy to design. As you know, we've had difficulty hiring engineers, and we're also doing several consent decree projects. So we tried to do the projects parallel, but we do these projects in-house because of the costs associated with them and the cost specifically to the county.
Okay. Thirdly, the request I made was that we delay this and we see if we can work with our stakeholders in Annapolis to try to get funding to subsidize this. We were able to do that in Perry Home Manor, and I thank your department for that. Thank the county executive for his help there. Instead, we're here. We're here. We shouldn't be here. We should have delayed this. We should have put this on hold. We should have engaged everyone before we had these discussions. My next question has to do with the 14 properties. So if we proceed with this, these residents are going to have to subsidize this sewer extension. And then if a developer comes along, they're going to be able to hook into it, basically, right?
I don't know about, if a developer comes along, they go through the same development process that any other developer goes through when they look at building in a particular area.
The answer is yes. The residents are going to bear the costs of this, and this area is prime for development. The developer's going to come in, they're going to hook it up, and all these residents, and many of them are on fixed income. I went to that community meeting, and they're going to shoulder the costs, and the costs are substantial. The final point I would make is, we're using Metro District Fund financing. I mean, if the goal here is somehow to service a new development, then maybe the money should come out of DUDE, maybe it should come out of economic development. My point here is we are rushing this project, and I'm going to respectfully ask my colleagues to at least pause this vote, because I have a lot of concerns, a lot of questions. I don't think the outreach was good, And I don't think those residents should be subsidizing this project the expense they are. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Do any of the other members have questions? Councilman Ertel?
Do you want to go?
No, sorry, but Ms. Walker was, I think, wanted to respond.
Sure,
to
go
Councilman
ahead,
Mark.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Chair, not my place.
No, thank you for the heads up on that. Ms. Walker, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you.
So I just want to respond to a couple of things. I just want to be clear that this was a request, and DEPS does the request and does an analysis based on the soil. And if there's an issue with the soil, if there is a health concern, that is why we're doing this. I want to state for the record that these residents are not paying for a developer to come in and connect this sewer system. I have an obligation to say that because that is not what is going on in this case. An analysis was done. The soil is not good soil, and that's why the recommendation was made. If you would like to delay it for us to have more outreach, I'm more than willing to delay it to have more outreach. However, our bids are in, and they expire March 1st. We can go back and ask the low bid if they want to extend their price, and I would be willing to do more outreach. But we are responding to a request based on a health issue in the community. I just want to.
And Director Walker, we've generally had a very good relationship, and I've worked with you on a number of these. In my opinion, you are subsidizing future development. Maybe not now, but you are in the future. I'd like this delayed. I'd like us to exhaust many options to help these taxpayers in the back who got stuck with a 24% increase in their state assessments, and now they're staring at this. So I would definitely like this delayed.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Marks. We'll go to Councilman Ertel and then Councilman Crandall.
Yes, Director Walker. Question, so it looks to me like, so 1.5 million of this is going to be projected onto the 25 homes that we're hooking up to, which equates to almost $60,000 per house, which seems, is that typical of, like, I mean, that just seems like a massive amount of money to just decide that we're going to hook up, we have to hook up 25 houses and you have to pay $60,000.
So it is on their tax bill, and it's paid over 40 years on their tax bill. So let me find my notes so I can tell you exactly how that works. But this is no different than any other health project where it's paid over 40 years on the tax bill. I do have that. I got a lot of papers here. Give me 1 second. So it's not all up front.
So it's about $1,500 a year.
Yep.
That's,
Let me just.
if you, without interest.
Where's that paper? You have it?
Mr. Chair, while Director Walker is looking, may I address Councilman Ertel's question? Councilman Ertel, good evening. It is not unusual for cost of that amount when you're in a health and safety matter. We've had other projects come before the council. As a matter of fact, one that I remember very vividly, that the state did step in and try to give some relief because it is expensive. Those of us who live in properties that have well and septic, we well know that if a septic system fails, it's a significant amount of money. But as Director Walker was indicating, that this is something that's paid over time on a tax bill. So to ask, is it typical? Yes. How much it costs depends on, the overall cost of the project, but it is typical in terms of how health and safety projects are administered.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Director Walker,
So it is over, it's financeable with the county over 40 years.
Is there interest on that as well, or is it just, they just take the cost and?
I would have to get back to you on if there's interest on it.
The other question I had, you said there's 14 properties that either are adjacent to this or close enough that they could hook up at some point. What are those properties? Is this vacant land or?
It's vacant land, no houses or anything.
And approximately, do we know approximately how many acres that comprises of those 14 properties?
No, I wouldn't know the acreage, but I could get you that answer.
Mr. Ertel, there is interest assessed. It is tied to, it used to be, I think, a flat 5%, but I think it was last year, the council passed a bill that tied the interest rate to a lesser interest rate to what the actual bond interest rate is.
Right, yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Councilman?
Yeah, that's all the questions.
There's a good map. There's a good map of the area. See all that undeveloped? Ms. Rogers, can I just say something to you as well? This administration has put a lot of emphasis on equity, and I do appreciate that. I would ask that you look at equity from the standpoint of people on fixed income in this area who are going to shoulder a tremendous burden.
Councilman Jones?
Yes, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, I'm assuming when we say the health emergency, we're saying that the septic system is failing.
Yes, sir.
So is there a way, I'm trying to alleviate the concerns that my colleague has expressed. Is there a way that we can stipulate that if someone were to in fact develop the property within, I don't know, X amount of years, that they would have to bear the costs and reimburse or suspend the payments from these residents right now? Is there a way to do that so that they not, in fact, have to bear the cost to subsidize another development?
I don't have an answer for that one, sir.
Councilmember Jones, we would have to have OOL research that because there's a lot of issues associated with that because this is existing well and septic systems that have been deemed to be in a situation of health and safety. A new developer who would be coming in and clearly where these properties are, these new development their cost will be associated and baked into that new project. So I don't know how, but we can have OOL research it. I don't know how a new developer would be able to be required to retroactively go into existing property, a issue around existing property and reimburse or assume the remainder of what's on those tax bills for something that already existed prior to a development coming in. But we're happy to research it for you.
Sure, because I would think we could add a new cost. We don't have to call it, we don't have to associate it with them, but we could add a new cost in this particular instance. And then they would be responsible to pay that new cost, call it whatever you like. And then we as a county would take that monies and reimburse those citizens to, or at least make sure they pay their fair share. Because I understand what Councilman Marks is saying. We don't want to do this today. These citizens bear the cost. Next year, after the project is done, a developer comes in, going to make they're going to build a ton of houses and they're going to reap the benefits of what just happened. Now, these things happen from time to time where it may be, 10, 15 years, that's one thing. But if something's going to be immediate within like 4 or 5 years, then I don't see any reason why we can't somehow figure out a way to not have these citizens bear that cost alone, when in fact somebody else is going to reap tremendous benefit from what they've done.
Yes, sir. Like I said, we're happy to research it because there's going to be, as a part of a new development, connectivity fees for any new properties that are built. Those new houses have to, you know, the connectivity for water and sewer with a new property, those costs are built into that property's, you know, cost. So from the standpoint of because they're talking about the 14 acres there, that's built into their costs too. And some of them are into perpetuity, just like the payments that we're talking about here. I do believe that the precedence that was set with the project, and I believe it was Councilman Marks, may have been, was it Perry Hall? Was it? Yes, where the delegation got involved and got some subsidy there. I mean, that's another thing to see if we can appeal to the state level colleagues, because we do know anytime you're in a situation where a septic system is failing, in all likelihood, the owners may be the original owners, and if you've been in a house 30 years or more, just on average, you may be in a situation where it's fixed income. So that's one thing that I recommend we could try to address as well, because the delegation did come in, step in, and provide some support to the county to help with that project.
Sure, Councilman Mark.
Yeah, correct. And this is a smaller project, a much smaller project.
Right.
And I did have some conversations with Senator Jennings and Delegate Naraki and Delegate Chalega, and the problem is it's just moving so fast. But you're right, that was a good partnership. I appreciated the county executive's support. He was a real leader on that, and I'd like to see if we could replicate that. I do, Director Walker, want to thank your staff. You were extremely helpful to the auditors. I know these hearings sometimes get heated, but we all respect their professionalism and the work they did in getting back to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Markson. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts? Let me just add a quick observation. So what we've heard is looking at the ability or the capability of the state adding some funds for the $60,000 assessment that would be assessed for each of the homes. And then I think the other thing we should look at is perhaps a retroactive assessment. And what I mean by that is, I think some of the council members, Councilman Jones raised concern about developer coming in down the road, tapping into the line. And, you know, Ms. Rogers, you said a septic system a failing septic system. Well, they all fail at some point. So, exactly. You know, they're designed to fail in some respects. But that developer that would tap into the line would then be assessed a retroactive assessment, that some formula be calculated. And I don't think it's new. I remember some 20 plus years ago, I was working in the planning department. We were working on Master Plan 2010, ironically, and a young man came into my office named Gary Kearns. Some of you may know Gary Kearns. And Gary said, "Izzy, I'm really worried." And I said, "What's got you, Gary?" And he said, "So we're building all these new sewer lines in all the necks in Baltimore County, and we're doing it to address all the failing septic systems. But I'm really concerned that while we're building in we're building these public sewer lines into the necks of Baltimore County, we're going to address the failing septic systems, but we're also going to create these this opportunity for growth to occur where we don't necessarily want it to occur." And so I don't know if we did any kind of retroactive assessment down there. Maybe it's something we can look at legislatively. But I just thought I would share some of the experience I've had related to this issue. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Councilman Ertel.
Other thought, Director Walker, do we have a way, I mean, we're putting in 462,000. Is there a way that we could do more from the county side? Where does that 462 come from? Like how did we determine we do 462, the residents have to do 15?
I'm sure it's a formula that's in code, that's in the Metropolitan District, that's already written
So
that we cover. Right, but
do we have a way to do better than what the Metropolitan District just says we have to do? In cases like this, where I think a lot of us up here are pretty sure, just because of that area, if you know that area, it's right off 43, the county has spent a massive amount of money to develop all along there. I cannot imagine that there's not, I would like to see a list of the 14 properties that are not hooking up and who owns those, because that might be, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, but I would like to see who else is interested in, who owns these adjacent properties, because I can't imagine that we're not going to have more housing down there shortly thereafter once this line gets in.
so what I will tell you is that the other option is if it's not approved, if DEPS would then tell the homeowners that they have to have a holding tank and they have to have the sewage hauled. That is the other option. So.
Okay. Good to know.
Thank you. Any other council members have any thoughts, questions, or comments? Councilman Jones?
Yeah, I guess just getting back to the idea, I don't think the cost is absorbent when someone's going to build, God only knows how many homes. I have no idea. I don't even know what the zoning is. But I guess my point is, I think we should be working towards a solution that ensures that the citizens don't, in fact, bear all the cost. Because I can imagine if somebody today has a failed septic system, they don't want to delay. They want this thing fixed as soon as possible. So I think the idea, the sweet spot is we should be somehow trying to come up with some assurances that the citizens won't be responsible to bear the cost within, 4 or 5 years of somebody else coming in, reaping the benefits of what they did. Which, if they reap those benefits, is well worth it to somebody, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Any of the members have any additional questions, comments, or thoughts? Okay, I know we've got a number of speakers, around 7, 8. Ms. Belcastro. Thank you, Ms. Walker. Ms. Belcastro, if you could present the speakers.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our first speaker is Anthony Fuller, who I believe is on by phone. Mr. Fuller, you are on. You may begin your testimony.
Yeah, I live at 304 Bork Avenue, and that whole area has been a swamp for 1,000 years. So even if you take away the 7 septic tanks on my road, it's still going to be a swamp. It's all downhill from Bird River Road all the way down to my area, and it drains into a stream, which is back in the woods behind my house, west of my house, which drains into a little stream that goes behind Baker's, Pitby Stand and Bar, under Eastern Avenue, and goes behind Hawthorne School and drains in the Middle River. It's always been a swamp. And you guys were allowed houses to be built north of our area. And before that, we never had failing septic systems. But you built 3, 4 developments up Wampler Road north of Benji's and Bork Road. And ever since you guys, the state built those houses, I mean, you're making money off of all the taxes from all them people, but all their water is draining more and more and more down into our area. I mean, the state and county actually created this problem by giving permits to build developments above us and cut out all these acres and acres of woods. Also, all through the 43 corridor, you guys removed so many trees and properties that you created the issue in our area by the runoff of water that comes into our area, which created the issue with our septic fail systems not, working properly. there's so much water coming downhill. I mean, we're at the bottom of the hill. It's been a swamp for thousands of years. Maple Crest on down was woods and swamp at one time. The overdevelopment made more and more runoff come down to that area. The state's collecting income taxes, property taxes from all the houses that you are allowed to be built, north and west of our area, which created, the issue with the failing systems because we got more water coming downhill. We're at the bottom of the hill. It's not our fault, that we're at the bottom of the hill and all the water's coming down there. But we're going to get, billed $58,000. If we decide to opt out, you're going to threaten to take our houses with through unpaid tax liens. Come on now.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Fuller? Councilman Marks.
Mr. Fuller, this is Councilman Marks. You keep mentioning you guys. Have you seen the little white zoning signs around the area?
Not you guys. I'm talking about, ahead of you guys. I've been in this house for 25 years. I had a brand new septic system put in when I moved into the house a year or so after. And right. I mean, all the development that happened north of my property, not you guys, I'm talking about the county, the state or whatever, gave permission for all that stuff to be built, and it created more and more water flowing down to our area. We're at the bottom of the hill. There's actually a river that comes across Benji's Road right into the woods back there when it's a really bad rain, and it was never like that before.
Right. Well, I certainly appreciate your situation, and I want to thank you for testifying. Your perspective is important, and I know where you're coming from. So thank you.
I got one more thing to say.
Go right ahead, Mr. Fuller.
And even if those on my road, the 7 houses on my road, it's still going to be a swamp. I mean, it's still going to be bad. I mean, it's a swamp back there. And who didn't Baltimore County just buy that property back there behind my house? I'm pretty sure they did.
We'll look into that, Mr. Fuller.
They've been trying to build houses back there for years and years. I've got several big giant rolls of blueprints, wanting me to hook in to septic that was going to be, downhill from my house and all this other stuff. And none of them went through. And I do believe Baltimore County just purchased that property back there.
Mr. Fuller, we'll look into that. We've got different agency heads that are here that may be able to respond to you, but we've got quite a few speakers, so thank you for sharing with us, and we're going to move on to the next speaker. Ms. Belcastro.
Our next speaker is Robert Griffin. Mr. Griffin, you are on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Hello, my name is Robert Griffin. Is that who you're calling?
Yes, sir.
I thank you, Council, for hearing our voices today, and thank you, Councilman Marks. I truly appreciate you as well. I received a letter in regards to this meeting just last night. That shows you how fast this is moving forward. And I've lived in this property since 2007. My in-laws have owned this property for 25 years prior to my wife and I purchasing it from them. What the speaker prior to me just said in regards to the housing that was built off of Wampler Road and those communities, he is correct. I own 2 parcels of land next to my property. I own 310, 312, and 314 Bort. So they are 2 of the 14 properties that are not included in this proposal because there's just blank land. These properties aren't deep. They're roughly about 170 foot deep at 50 foot wide. Upon purchasing this property from my in-laws, I too had a failing septic. There were old metal cans basically in the ground and qualified for a Waterloo treatment septic system. And that was granted through a grant from the Save the Bay Foundation. In 2018, when the EPA came down here and did perk testing on the land, I was fortunate enough to be here when they were here. And I asked them in regards to the perk testing, knowing that I wanted to expand my house when I bought it from my in-laws. And they said I couldn't do any expansion at all on my home because my land doesn't perk. In fact, today, you wouldn't even be able to build a property down here because it's unperkable land. But the short of it is that the financial obligation to these 25 people who live down in this community to cover the expense of $1.5 million. And granted, it is needed, as that man said, Jeb, of standing water. The property right next to me across from my 2 vacant lots has a basement, and his sump pump constantly pumps out. It clicks on every minute, and that water just comes over to my property. It's consistently wet and damp down here. So I can understand that, septics fail down in this area. So I understand that it's a health related issue, but you're asking these 25 residences to take on a $1.5 million bill. And if divided out, and if at $2,700 and that's annually, over 40 years, it's well over $100,000. And that the interest rate that I was quoted at that December 11th meeting that we had was 6.5%. I just think that it's too much money to ask of these people. And I think that we need to regroup and try to get us some funding, possibly from the Save the Bay Foundation. Also, the land behind me, from my understanding, was purchased from Baltimore County, and it was purchased from Baltimore County to keep developers from being down here and to keep these streams that dump into the bay from being overloaded with a bunch of debris. So I don't know if that is the case or not, but from my understanding, it was purchased. However, right across the street from me is blank land that's owned by someone that lives up the street from me who is 96 years old. And when she passes away, her sons will want to sell that land and possibly have that land subdivided. And are they going to dump into our system that's being built today? So I thank you for listening to me. And again, thank you, Councilman Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Mr. Griffin? Okay, thank you, Mr. Griffin. Ms. Belcastro, please, the next speaker.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Josh Sines. Mr. Sines, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Good evening. I wanted to talk in opposition to this resolution. This has got to be one of the worst things I've seen done to 25 small homes in a small area. For some of the background, this area, these houses were built probably close to 50, 60 years ago. Their septics were fine then. The septics have failed because of the drainage issues that were caused by the development on 43 and the developments on Wampler Road. So now after that, and they fail the systems out, you're asking each one of them to pay $60,000 to hook up to a septic system. And to answer the question that was getting thrown around there earlier, I just added it up while I was sitting here waiting. You have roughly about 150 acres back there at DR55. So the residents that are back there, those 25 residents, can bear the burden of $60,000 for sewer. And then after it's all done, the whole area could be developed. They have a word for this. It's called gentrification. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Sines. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Mr. Sines? Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Robert Bendler. Mr. Bendler, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony. Mr. Bendler.
Oh, sorry. I lost the connection there for a minute. My name is Bob Bendler. I'm the president of the Essex River Civic Council. We are aware of the request to put this sewer line in to serve these 25 homes, and we're aware that apparently there is a serious health issue. However, a number of the residents in that area have contacted the Civic Council and indicated that they see a major hardship with this enormous amount that their assessment is going to be increased. Their tax is going to be increased to offset the cost of this. It seems to me that this should not be approved and move forward until the county has adequately addressed this situation. Whether it is additional state funding that's requested or whether additional county money can be put in. But the fees that we're going to be charged to these individuals is just much more than many of them can bear. And I think this needs to be seriously explored, as Councilman Marks has indicated, before this moves forward. Now, that's the extent of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bendler. Always good to have your voice here at the council chambers.
Thank you.
Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Mr. Bendler? Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Patricia Payne, and Ms. Payne is here in person.
Ms. Payne? What are you zoning into?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Patricia Payne. I grew up on Benji's, in Benji's Middle River. They're saying the house is about 25 years old. I was born on that area. I'm 65, I'm 66. I will be 67 in next month. So those houses are well over that time frame of 25 years, 30 years. We grew up there. The families that are there are older. They worked. A lot of them worked right in their areas. Martin Marietta was one of the plants, some other things that have closed down. My aunt, whose house is on at 933 Benji's Road, she passed away last year. This is what they're trying to do to this area, to those few families that are in that area. It's awful. A lot of them are on fixed incomes. They have worked all their lives to keep a neighborhood, keep their children there safe. We grew up there and did not have to worry about anything at all. To do this at this point it's awful. There has to be a way to help the residents there. I did for almost 40 years with the federal government. I've done my share. I've done what my aunt who had the house, she worked there. Her husband was a veteran. And then to come in to do this to the residents that are left makes no sense to me whatsoever. We have been, 2018 is when it first came up. We have not been given clear direction as how they're going to move forward since 2018. We have not. COVID came in, that shut down a bigger chunk of that time frame, so we wasn't given direction. All of a sudden, we're moving forward as quickly as we possibly can without giving these small group of individuals the help, the assistance, or the information that we need. That December 11th meeting was absolutely horrific. We didn't get the information. We was given bits and pieces, like I don't have that right now, I'll come back and give it to you, or we're not sure about that, let me look into it and see. We did get a small directive as to some of the questions. One of my questions was if the taxes are gonna go up and then there's gonna be a line item on the bill. What happens if I can't keep up with the line item? Will I be forced out of my house? And apparently that is a yes. I could lose my home. I'm paying my taxes, but I can't pay this line item of whatever it might be. We don't have an idea as to exactly how much money that line item is going to come up with. Mr. Marks, I want to thank you. He was the only person there that stood up and gave us some kind of hope that we could even stay in the neighborhood. My parents, my grandfather actually purchased the land, and this might not mean a whole lot to anybody but us there, and then the family we're all family. We all grew up together. We went to school together, all the things that went on with that. In the 1920s, 30s, when it was impossible for black men to own property. They own property. This means more to us than what's going on these pieces of paper. It really does. And we should not have to get this big bill, a line item of $3,000, and then and we have to do it, and then a developer come through there and tack in and doesn't put anything into it and build more houses back there, and we're squeezed in. I feel like we're being squeezed into a situation that unless somebody here opens up and sees that we need some help, we're going to lose our properties. We're going to lose our legacies. That's legacies there. A whole bunch of legacies. And yes, the septic thing needs to be dealt with. And I don't have all the particulars about that. I can't give you all of that, the language that goes with that. But everything that has gone on in there, and then not to come back and help those 25 families and allow 14 properties around them to become a developer, and more houses go. We watch the houses come up. It's needed, it's necessary, but it should not be at the cost of these families who've been there all of their lives. I can't imagine where they're gonna go. So I would ask any one of you, how can you go forward with this and not look at what's going on with the families that's left? Where are they going? Families who could walk outside and walk along the grass, and now they're stuck in a little room or a little area like a senior citizen place. It's not right. It's just not right. So this is where I am with this. I feel for every single one of those families up there. And if I could stop it, I would do so. I don't have that kind of money. And I don't think any one of y'all could come up here and just say it would be okay if they came through your neighborhood. It has not been assessed properly. And I think they stopped just before the mark, and then something sped them up, and now they're going forward quickly.
Thank you, Ms. Payne.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Before Mr. Marks, Ms. Payne, I don't care if you went a little bit over time. Because that
I'm
was
sorry
one, that
if
was,
I did.
no,
This is too much.
I don't think any of us care. That was one of the best and impassioned testimonies that I've heard in a long time, and I've been on the council for 9 years. And I want to let you know that Councilman Marks and I don't know the discussions that he's had with all the other members, but I think that he has advised all of the other members as to his concerns and therefore your concerns with this particular fiscal matter.
Right.
So,
We got the letter.
in fact,
I got my letter Saturday.
David and I talked, he called me over the weekend to talk about this. So that's how much he's working on your behalf.
And I thank you. I really do.
So we are aware of what's happening. Thank you.
Can I?
Councilman Jones.
I just want to say to Ms. Payne and everybody else that's listening, I'm almost sure that we're smart enough and motivated enough to find a solution. I'm confident of that. After all,
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure we can find a
Thank you.
solution.
The families
reasonable
that are there,
solution.
right. I thank you because this means a lot to me, and it's to watch this property possibly dwindle out of our hands because someone or some body of people did not take the time to look into every aspect of it. And I'm not saying the group that was on it. I know I heard there was they couldn't get engineers. The cost to each person is going to be, it's crazy. I can't imagine. And even though they stretch it over 40 years, 60 years or whatever it was, that's a lot to leave on. And then who's going to buy the property if you want to sell it and you have that overhead left there? Who's going to want to sell the property? Who's going to want to buy it? And we have never gotten those answers. Nobody has taken the time to ask, well, what is this and what is that and where would we go from here? That has to be looked at. And I feel like we're being squeezed, so we have to move out. The guy that talked about the swamp, I grew up there, so yeah, I know where some of those swampy places is because I got in trouble for going back there, playing back there, because we wasn't supposed to be there. So yes, I know all of that. And this I'm hoping that you truly take into consideration those older families that are back there that can't go to another facility. They don't want to go, and they shouldn't be forced to go to a senior citizen place. When they got up, they walked outside. Their sisters that still are sisters back there. It's so much. And I know this is very close to me what I am and where I am because of my rearing back there in that little swampy little area, that I can come in here and address you guys, address everyone with the conviction that I need to address you with.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Any of the Councilman Katz?
Just very quickly, and maybe I heard it, do you have public water?
That's a part of it, and see, going all the way back, if you can give me this. We grew up back there when there was no water.
Right.
We had outhouses.
Right.
I was 20 years old when I left. Those outhouses, some of them were still there. The sewer only went to certain houses, and it stopped. And it never went any further. I can't 100%. There is running water back there now, but it also has to do with why they had septic tanks, because Baltimore County failed that community because they never brought it all the way through. It stopped at the top part of Benji's Road.
Well, do you have city water or public water at your home?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But the sewer was the other problem.
Right.
We didn't have either or.
I get that.
They eventually brought the water in.
Right.
The sewer never came completely in.
But all the homes are served with public or city water?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do pay into, we have to pay a water bill. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but it took forever. Forever. I mean.
Forever to do that? How long ago did it happen?
I want to say that the water came back, so I was about 20-ish. We had water spigots. We had to go and fill the water spigot from the water, put the water in the water spigots. Yeah. That came in, and then the sewer never officially 100% came in. It just never did.
When I hear about your community, I think of all the development that's taken place in Baltimore County. And at one time, there really were no stormwater requirements.
Right.
Now there are. And in fact, they're being reassessed now by the state. So I know one of the things that's contributing to this problem is the fact that we have too much development and we have a stormwater system that is inadequate. It will
and
not.
And part of that reason
work.
Was because Baltimore County did not bring it further, far enough down.
Right.
And now that they want to develop the area, now all of a sudden, this is where we are. So part of the reason we have the failed septic tanks is because that community was never given an opportunity to really become for it to have been developed to the degree that it needs to be developed.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Councilman Marks?
Thank you for your very kind comments. You said it 10 times better than I could ever say it.
Thank you.
I just want to briefly walk through a timeline here. So the State Department of Assessments and Taxation sent their notices out around New Year's Eve. We got ours, I think, January 2nd or 3rd.
What, this last note, the one for today?
Right.
To come today? We got it Saturday.
And let me guess, it went up. Did your property value go up?
Everything has gone up, yes.
Everything's gone up, yeah.
Yes,
So,
and
So you find out about this on December 11th, and then you're hit with this whammy this week.
to come here today.
That whammy this week, yeah.
Right, Saturday, we got the bill, and I think somebody online said they got theirs 2 days ago.
Okay.
So, and I know they're working hard. I understand. I was I work for the feds. I know what goes into all all that goes into that. However, what is being missed here is the people. The people are being missed. We are not being represented like we should be. And that community, those 25 houses or so, have never been fully given their just due. And that's why the septic tanks came into place, because then we would still be using outhouses. Seriously. And that's just where it is. So I hope that you're listening to what we're saying. It's not fair, but I want to be, it needs to be developed. I understand that, but it should not be developed at the cost of the blood, the sweat, the tears that went into keeping that neighborhood a safe neighborhood. We're still safe. All the things that went into there, that's a community that we came together and we did what we had to do. We did all of that. We shoveled the snow. We did all of that. So I understand that. But we also were overlooked way back when. They never went as far as they should have when they had an opportunity.
Thank you.
So, and I thank you all. I truly do.
We thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Ms. Payne, we are listening, and thank you for your testimony. It was quite compelling. And what you've added for us is the human element. So when we review things, sometimes we review them on paper, sometimes we review them on our phone, sometimes we review them on the computer. But what we lose in that level of review is the human element. So thank you for bringing that back to us.
And which is why I came in person.
Yes.
I needed to come in person. I would like to ask, and I don't know who in Baltimore County, I would like an answer for that if possible. When the developers were coming through back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and they didn't come in as far as they could have come, why would you throw this on a group of people who asked for this a long time ago and it was just overlooked? Was it just an oversight?
It's a fair question, and something I was going to bring up with Ms. Rogers. Did our DEI office look at this proposal to see if it was equitable, if it was inclusionary? What role did the DEI office have in this, or can they have a role in explaining to Ms. Payne?
Chairman, I will check with them, but the way these projects run is if we get a concern about a health and safety issue, then it travels down the health and safety path in terms of how the project is assessed, whether it goes forward or not. But I will check with Ms. Peoples-Brown in how that goes, because from an equity standpoint, they're looking at something that was brought to the county's attention because of a failing septic system. So that's the issue at hand. And from an equity standpoint, the costs for those kind of projects are the costs. The challenge that we're facing as a county, as our infrastructure ages, because we're talking about houses that, you know, have been there for decades. Some didn't even start out with having, as this kind woman has indicated, they started out with outhouses. And so the average age, and you can look it up, the average age of a septic system, if maintained, is 40 years. So a septic system at some point—
I thought the county had a grant program to assist with failing septic systems for areas that were in good proximity to a public sewer line.
Say it one more time.
I thought that we had a fund to help residents that are on a failing septic line that are in proximity to public sewer to help them hook up to public sewer, not at a $60,000 per house.
Well, this project is a part of that. What Ms. Walker was describing is just that, you know, the cost of what it would be in the long-term financing. If a resident had to do this themselves outside of a county project, is a lot more than that. If you know that you're taking it on yourself, where you have to go and get a private contractor to do it, because individuals who elect not to, in this case, if it is a health and safety project, and Ms. Walker and I just talked about that, it's mandatory to go forward. But in other projects, if a homeowner declines to do so, then they don't get the benefit of the joint project. It'd be a lot higher than that if you had to do it by yourself. If you were just one homeowner having to do it, right. We're looking at $60,000. You're talking about $80,000. So from the standpoint, right. I don't know that we have a quote unquote grant program, but we do have a program that tries to reduce the cost. But what happened in the case of Perry Hall, the state came in and worked with us to help offset the cost. That was a grant program, but that was not for every septic system in Baltimore County. That was for a project. That effort was project. I'm saying that we in Baltimore County have to look at this comprehensively because our infrastructure is aging. Where there are well and septic, now we know, the county knows how many septic systems we have because DEPS has to monitor that. So we know, like if you have you're gonna buy a house or something and you wanna determine when that septic system was put in, DEPS has that data. We have an excellent individual who works on that.
Could we combine the work of DEPS and the DEI office to look at if we haven't been equitable, and I suspect we haven't over the 20, 30, 60 years in
And
Baltimore
if I
County?
could add to that,
Yes.
we had to fight every step of the way to get the water. Then we had to fight even more so to get the septic approved. So I feel like, from my standpoint, that whole entire area has always been overlooked. It has never gotten a fair part of the pot, per se. So the septic tanks, in order to get the water in the house, that's the only avenue that we had. And unfortunately, when they started building around it, it's kind of muddied the water, per se. The people with the newer houses around us are tapping into that, and we're able to get it. These 25 houses have not been able to. We had to rely on the septic, or we would still be going outside to the bathrooms. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Hear you loud.
We've always been overlooked in that little end. It wasn't until 43 opened up that somebody got an idea that this might be some area that we can develop. And that's where we are.
So
And that's where we stand.
Clearly, there have been equity and inclusion issues. So again, Ms. Rogers, if you could work with your team to address that. And let me just say this, Ms. Payne. So tomorrow night, I have a budget town hall meeting with the county executive. And usually we just advocate for projects in the 2nd District, which I represent. But tomorrow night, I'm going to advocate for Councilman Marks and for you, and try to urge the county executive to support the efforts, the sewage and health efforts in your area.
Thank you so much.
Thank
The lady that started this, she's gone on, passed on since then, would have given you a thumbs up for that because she fought for it for years. She passed on even before it even came to this point. I thank everybody for any effort that they put into it, because this has been a long time in coming, and unfortunately had to come this way. But it was the meeting in December that I met Mr. Marks, and before that meeting, we just felt like our hands were tied. You did an excellent job opening up the door to this in order for me to come here. The only other thing for me would be that the correspondence has to be a little tighter. I would have missed this meeting. I would not have been here had not have gotten a phone call from my cousin. She did call and say that there was a meeting. I changed everything to get here. I know y'all have a lot of work to do. I thank you all for listening to us. There are families that are on the other line listening that are part of this. And if only one person it takes to represent, but from that little small community, I've been able to come up and address these issues intelligently. I don't have all the bells and whistles, but I do thank you so much for listening to me.
You did a great job, Miss.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Rodney Cooper, who is also here in person.
That is my brother. He has the house at 933 Benjamin Road. So everything I said, ditto it, and we're good.
So noted, Ms. Payne.
So he's going to, okay. And Ms. Henrietta Brown, who is here in person.
Henrietta Brown.
Is Henrietta Brown here?
Here she comes. Oh, here we go.
And Ms. Brown is on the Gladway part of it, and but whatever I said was that.
Okay.
So noted, Ms. Payne. Okay, Ms. Belcastro.
Our next speaker is virtual, and it is Thomas Pilon. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Pilon.
Pilon. Mr. Pilon, you're on. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony. Sorry, Mr. Pilon, please hold off. He's for the next item. My apologies.
Next, okay.
Yes.
So let me just, I was really compelled by the previous speaker. Let me get myself back together here. So the next item we're going to review is the adoption of the 2030 master plan. Let me just make a note. I think we're going to have Mr. Lafferty come up and speak about the master plan, but let me just make a note to anyone that intended to speak today that there's a strong possibility that at the next legislative work session on February 5th, that we're going to defer it to the work session, likely to defer it to February 13th. And what that would do, the implications that would have on the schedule would be that the work session would be on the 13th and the adoption for the resolution would be on the 20th. So what I'm trying to say is we're going to have another public hearing on this, or another work session, I should say, on the master plan on February 13th. So you are free to give testimony today and then come back on the 13th to give additional testimony, or you can just wait to the 13th, certainly up to each of the speakers that have signed up. Mr. Boswick, did I miss anything on that, or is that?
No,
correct?
sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And with that, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and also thank you for introducing the resolution to adopt Master Plan 2030. The master plan is intended to be a comprehensive plan with an eye to the future and recognizing the county's future needs that will have to be addressed. It's not about a single issue or a single district or a single community, but it's about a comprehensive look at the future growth of the county and the community needs that can be addressed over that decade period of time. It is an aspirational document that in this case resulted from thousands of public comments, and as well as applying and adopting best planning practices. While aspirational, according to the Maryland Supreme Court, the master plan is also considered to be part of the development process in its review. There are two major portions to Master Plan 2030, the growth framework and the vision framework. We do have an implementation intent, which will be developed after the plan is adopted. As stated at the beginning of the document, looking at the hard copy on page 5, development may occur anywhere where the zoning allows it. The master plan does not change any of the zoning, as you know. The graphics, including the illustrative, those that are illustrative, are only to convey a general approach and character. And after the plan is adopted, any further changes, of course, have to come through the county council to be legislatively approved. So it's a living document in the sense that if there are updates and changes, they can be addressed along the way, but they can, of course, only be done through the county council and not as been suggested in prior testimony by any given agency. There are three guiding themes that are woven throughout this document: equity, sustainability, and vibrant communities. And we take all of them very seriously as we look at not only the growth framework, but also as the visions that are laid out in the plan. So let me start with the growth framework. The analysis and basis for the master plan is data. The plan is data-driven. We are honored to be recognized by the Maryland Sustainable Growth Commission for our retrofit mapping analysis and the use of the numerous metrics. And we appreciated the presence of council members Ertel and Patoka when we were able to join Secretary Flora for this award. A critical data point emerged when we began our analysis and looking at the county's capacity to grow inside the ERDL. We also started with the second premise, which is that the ERDL will not be moved. We are not looking to expand it or change it. We see that as essential to the lifeblood of the county and the future of the county as well. But based on the current land use zoning and tiers, the build-out scenarios as laid out in the plan indicate that full build-out could occur within 20 years. Recognizing this and the fact that there is very little undeveloped land remaining inside the URDL, the master plan adopted a retrofitting approach for looking at both the urban and suburban parts of the county. So this meant the need to re-examine areas that can foster walkability, public open space, and accommodate economic and residential growth. This would necessarily be in areas with adequate infrastructure, including an appropriate APFO. And also, we recognize that the new approach may need to be incentivized, create incentives in order to create new and vibrant communities. If we've not seen the development to date, the question is, what is it going to do to incentivize a new look at the way that the county is going to build out in the future? So the next question, of course, is where would these retrofitted areas take place? The county did not have any predetermination about which communities or where in the county this would occur. We identified 27 metrics. These came in large part from the community itself during our very extensive public outreach, as well as the online reception and surveying that we took. So we had 27 metrics, and we assigned weights to each of those. We placed each of those then in 7 different categories that drove the identification of what has become known as the core retrofit areas, as well as the nodes. And this included demographics, employment opportunity, funding, land use and ownership, neighborhood assets, neighborhood deficiencies, and transportation access. The areas that accumulated the highest scores resulted in the core retrofit areas. So the data drove the outcomes of the determination that we now created as place types. And once again, the maps were illustrative and intended to show the general character of each of these place types. And we fully expect, with the adoption of the master plan, that we'll move into a stage of small area plans that will help us refine each of these place types and engage the community again in helping to determine the futures of the areas throughout the county. To create the nodes, we started with the core retrofit areas. We then created a 1/8-mile buffer, which reflected what would be an easy walk to that central point or that retrofit area. Then another 1/4 mile area beyond that was perceived to be indicative of a 5 or 10-minute walk for people to reach that central core area. This is what we call the node. So the node, by definition, includes nearby areas that are adjacent to the core that we had identified through our data-driven process. We then looked beyond that to 3/4 of a mile and a mile, again, out from the core, and that's what we defined as our connected neighborhoods, since they connect, theoretically, to that potential retrofit area. And then everything else within the URDL was identified as an established neighborhood. And to make a finer point about retrofitting the nodes in the map, the nodes are a place type determined by the data and does not suggest that development or redevelopment cannot occur outside those mapped areas. This was something the planning board made sure that we addressed in the plan itself. As stated in the master plan, the nodes are strategic locations for redevelopment and for retrofitting across the county. They're located on commercial corridors, near transit hubs, aging neighborhoods and shopping areas, and gray fields, areas that we believe are ripe and appropriate for looking at new development. Since we do not have the green fields and we're not going to go outside the URDL to encourage redevelopment, the county's future growth will be stagnant if we don't find new and creative ways in which to look for new opportunities. And these nodes are also adjacent to residential and commercial properties that would help support a mix of uses to serve the broader community. The nodes are created by data and cannot be arbitrarily altered or eliminated while maintaining the integrity of the data and the process that was used in conjunction with the public and with the planning board to lay out what the nodes will contain. If there are going to be remapping of any of the nodes, that requires a recalculation of the data or an alteration of the data that has been utilized to date. In addition, at the end of the growth framework section, we talk about some other recommendations that should be addressed. One is that all the manuals that are used for the development process need to be updated. Secondly, there needs to be better development review coordination amongst the agencies. Some of that has already begun, but we can use improvements. And also the planning board indicated that it wanted to review the PUD process. And as many of you know, they were involved when the PUDs were first established, and now they believe it's time for a review of that process. Lastly, let me address the vision framework itself. This framework establishes goals and actions for a long-term sustainable and equitable Baltimore County. These are to help communities be livable, healthy, vibrant, economically resilient, in harmony with nature and equitable. The department drew heavily upon the American Planning Association's Sustaining Places report in crafting not only the framework for the work that we did, but also to help us lay out what the categories would be for the visions. These are also in 7 different categories: livable built environment, harmony with nature, resilient economy, responsible regionalism, inclusive planning, and healthy community. And in these 7 areas, there are 26 priorities and then specific goals and actions that are laid out. Again, these are part of a comprehensive examination of the county as a whole and are proposals that we believe lay out a dynamic, equitable, resilient, and healthy future for Baltimore County, and acknowledging that as an aging county and a growing county, if we're going to accommodate the economics and the residential needs that we're going to see for future generations, that we need to be creative, thoughtful, and also focused. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lafferty. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Councilman Ertel?
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Director Lafferty, I had a question about, on page 86, there are 2 goal/actions, and I'll read these. Goal 2, action 4, establish place-based strategies to improve and enhance the housing stock in older communities. Can you expound upon that a little? Do you?
Sure. Thank you, Councilman, for that question. There are a number of older communities. I know just in the broader Towson area, for instance, we have the area of and Councilman Marks may know as well, the Oaks on east side of Loch Raven Boulevard. We have older communities, parts of Turner Station in the southeast, parts of Lansdowne, aging housing stock that really needs to be attended to. Many older residents who are no longer able to fully take care of the properties have gotten to a point where some of the properties just are in some stages of decline. We believe that in the long term, we want to retain and sustain the older neighborhoods, but that the housing stock itself needs to be addressed. A number of years ago, the county had a contract with Neighborhood Housing Services that focused in the Hillendale area to do exactly that, to build up home ownership and also to help people improve the quality of the housing they had so they could stay in their community. So that's the theme of that.
Yeah, and I think that's needed. I mean, the neighborhoods you listed are, we all realize we have a problem there, and anything we can do to stabilize those communities and have them thrive is important. There's another one on 86, Goal 2, Action 7, finalize the ongoing study I didn't necessarily knew we had an ongoing study of county-owned property, county-owned land to identify underutilized areas that can be used for affordable housing units. And can we talk about that as to what we're looking at there?
Yes, sir. This actually was an item that came out of the Affordable Housing Work Group that the county executive impaneled probably back in 2021. And part of the question was, does the county own any land where housing could be developed? And if so, what might that look like? Where would that be? How many units could be built? So we've done an inventory of county-owned property. And frankly, we haven't come up with that much additional land that's actually usable for redevelopment. But that was the intent, is if we're going to encourage the private sector to provide housing units, what land does the county possibly have? And there'll be further analysis, I believe, along the way that I think our county DHCD is engaged in.
Well,
and Madam AO may have something additional.
I would hope that we're not looking at or calling parkland underutilized and then converting it to apartment buildings. It's just not.
No, sir, that's two separate programs. But what I'll say to add to what Director Lafferty indicated, when we're looking at land, to be, supportive of our efforts for attainable housing for all, which is the county executive's agenda, particularly in the second term, we look at, and we have the housing folks at the table in terms of any acquisitions. That's how it's continuing to go, because we started with the land that we have. And as Director Lafferty just indicated, we did not find that within the housing stock that we have, within the land that we have, that it was suitable for housing. But to keep going to look at that, we look at whenever there's an acquisition, whether there's the potential for housing, any type of housing on that property. Parkland was not a part of that recommendation in terms of looking at the county's housing stock and determining whether it could be used for attainable housing. That part of the project is over. That recommendation was completed, but we're keeping it going by looking at each time we seek to purchase land. We do that. We actually do an assessment with Mr. Hickey and his staff. Parkland was not a part of the assessment at all.
Okay. I mean, another concern I have is if we're buying land and telling communities that we're buying it for open space, and then we turn it into apartment housing, which is generally what we're going to build.
They're two different programs. Project Open Space purchases have to meet a certain criteria, and to use state money for that, it has to meet the criteria in terms of recreation and parks. So when you use the term open space, I'm applying the definition that we use for Project Open Space, which is about acquiring property for recreation and parks, because that's a funding stream that we use. But there's no bait and switch there, if you will.
Great, thank you. Director Lafferty, one more question, because I could go on, but.
Yes, sir.
This is page 87. Goal 3, Action 2, modify parking minimums for the following scenarios. Areas in need of redevelopment. Development proposed to be located around a half mile of transit stops. The governor, by the way, has a bill in that extends that to a mile, which seems questionable. And urban areas where shared parking is encouraged. And I can tell you, as a community person in Towson, we've built several buildings where we've taken the parking minimums down to pretty low levels. And what we've seen is that often the residents who move there stay for a short period of time because they don't have the ability to park a car. We often are kind of gearing housing, especially when we're talking about apartments, because that seems to be all we build. We don't build condo buildings anymore. And we're gearing them to young professionals and empty nesters a lot of times, and they often have 2 vehicles. They often are not utilizing public transportation on a regular basis. And I question that is going to, I mean, I've heard all the arguments for it. I don't know if you have any additional things to say about that, but I know, like I said, I know in Towson, we've had a lot of turnover in our buildings where people just get tired of dealing with the parking situation, and then they move out to Mays Chapel or Harford County or places where they can just park their car and walk into their house or feel safe that they're in their own garage and they're not 5 blocks away at a public parking garage. And I just question that that's going to help us be a sustainable community in the future.
Well, I thank you for those observations, and certainly there are a lot of anxieties around parking garages that people have. I think we have to be a lot more intentional in making sure that any facilities that are built for parking are safe. The half mile is sort of a standard that's often used where development occurs around a transit hub or transit stop, because we know that more people, if they're buying or renting near a transit facility, that they're probably more likely than not going to use that transit as well. So the need for the parking is reduced. But parking is always an issue, and even though we look at a lot of the parking, like the shopping centers where there seems to be an overabundance of parking, the question is, do you need that except for a couple of times a year when the holidays are here? Sure. So I think that's the kind of examination I think we're suggesting needs to take place. It's not, one size doesn't fit all. It may work differently in Liberty Road than it does over in Essex. So we have to make sure we're conscious of that as we're looking at those standards.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this. It's not meant to be a criticism. It's just that often we get a blanket policy where we're, like I said, in Towson, we're building buildings where theoretically there's a parking garage that's available, but there may not be. But yet we're applying the same principle regardless of whether you have a giant parking lot, 6 acres of parking outside the building or 3 spots for 100 residents. So we approved a building in Towson under the BMDT that, I forget how many units, 150 units, 4 parking spaces for 150 units. I mean, it's...
Well, and we can talk about this.
I know, and I know that has nothing to do with you, but I'm just saying these things,
yes, sir,
they defy logic sometimes.
Well, I think for the DTD, I think there's written in that if you have parking available within 1,000 feet, you also don't have to meet the same parking standards. So I think, again, it goes to, how dense the development may already be in an area or what the future development may be. And creating a more, I'm hoping that as we get into the small area plan process, some of these same issues will come out, but obviously they'll be addressed differently based upon parts of the county.
Thank you, Mr. Otel. Any additional?
Sorry to drag on.
Question or comments? Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lafferty, you mentioned in your testimony that the master plan doesn't change zoning, and that zoning changes would come before the council as they always do and always have. But that's not entirely true, though, is it? Because the master plan is inextricably tied to Bill 324, which strips the council's land use authority within those nodes identified in the master plan, correct?
No, sir.
How am I not correct? 324 circumvents the council's land use authority, within the nodes that are identified in the master plan. How am I wrong on that?
Well, I'm here to address the master plan, which.
Well, we're talking about the retrofit nodes, because the retrofit nodes are in Bill 324, are they not?
They are.
Okay.
As the place where additional housing would be permitted in the B zones in the nodes.
By right.
By right.
Without coming to the council first.
No, sir, because the council would have to approve that legislation, so it is the council's determination that that would be a reasonable change to the B zone.
And that's for us to decide when we deliberate 324.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now that I agree with you with. So you mentioned incentives for these developments in the retrofit nodes. These incentives are for affordable housing, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
What are the incentives?
Well, if someone wanted to build an entertainment venue, for instance, and wanted to have any kind of either a tax break or get some other sort of deferred payment or loan from the county, if we determine that an entertainment venue is appropriate in the location, that's something we may want to incentivize.
But wouldn't a music venue be allowed in a B zone anyway?
We're talking about retrofit areas and where this new development or redevelopment would occur, Councilman. We're not talking only about B zones.
But the retrofit nodes would allow for residential development in those retrofit nodes.
Currently,
with incentives for affordable housing. That's in Bill 324 as well, correct?
That there is an incentive for building units that would be affordable to certain populations in Bill 324. Yes, sir.
In the retrofit nodes.
In the retrofit nodes.
All right, very good.
In the nodes, not there. It's a difference, Councilman. The retrofit core areas are at the heart of the node. The node itself is bigger, but under 3-24, you're only building within the B zones, not in the residential or in the entirety of the node.
Understood. You've mentioned several times, in fact, when you refused to assist the council in our drafting of amendments, including drawing of new maps, you said the process was data-driven. You said so in your testimony today. 27 metrics were used to derive these retrofit nodes, these place types, I think that you called them. Can we have that data? Can you supply those whole studies, the 27 metrics and the things that were found out by through those 27 metrics in that study? Can we get that data from you?
We can provide that, and it's actually in the master plan that's online, Councilman, but we can make sure it gets to you, and it should be probably in the appendices of the hard copy volume, but we'll make sure it gets to you. Yes, sir.
Well, I've read through that, and it seems like there should have been a lot more going into that than what I found in what you're talking about. So I'll check again for its completeness, but any additional information that is not available there, I would appreciate if you would supply to the council.
We'll be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall and Director
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Any additional questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Katch.
Yeah. Steve, can you tell me why the master plan, of course, has the nodes in it? With Bill 324, depends on nodes to a large degree. Why wasn't that legislation put in before the CZMP started, so that we as representatives of our district could put in issues and get public input where we would have known where the nodes would affect that area? Why?
Are you asking why the legislation, Bill 3-24, was not put in sooner? Is that the
I'm
question?
asking what, since it depends on CZMP, that bill. 324 depends on the CZMP. And it depends on the master plan.
It doesn't rely on CZMP because comprehensive zoning map is an opportunity to change what the zoning is.
Yes.
And there's no allowance currently in the B zones for residential. So that's not a CZMP issue. The CZMP is mapping of a parcel. It's not the text amendments that may go into a bill or go into defining a B zone or an M zone or anything else. We did start our discussion about how could we foster mixed-use development many, many months ago, and tried to find the right strategy that would be appropriate. We looked a lot at the CCC and CT overlays. We looked at some other items as well. And we weren't able to come up at that stage with something that would actually predated the CZMP. So it's something we've continued to work on, and we're now before the council, or will be before the council with that bill.
You know, I work very closely with my constituents on practically everything, including the CZMP. And I can tell you that if my constituents had known or knew that 324 was going to go in, and that some areas with the zoning that's in place, or maybe new zoning that was proposed, that 324 would actually result in something that isn't zoned for apartments to become apartments, I think they would have liked to have a role in it, some say in it. And they don't have any say in it now because of 324. There's no say at all. If something's in a node, it's a B zone, it's an M zone, it can get apartments or whatever. And they had no part in it because nobody knew about this legislation. I just don't think it's right. I really don't. I wish that you had, the administration had put 324 in before the deadline for filing issues with the CZMP. Because I'm sure there would have been, I know there would have been discussions in my district, and I know that, people have very strong opinions, and I'm sure that the end result would be much better than the current situation, where we have land that's been zoned BL or whatever for years, never, ever thinking it would be for apartments. Suddenly it's for apartments. That's not the way we should do things. And, I don't know why the administration chose not to put in the bill prior to the CZMP process ending, the filing of issues ending. And I was pretty disgusted with it. I really am. We have worked very hard in my district. I know everyone up here has worked very hard with their constituents and will continue to do that. And after all, we're here to represent the people of our districts. And I know we're all responsible people. And because I told you what it is we had planned in my district. And that practically, and the nodes that are in the master plan are pretty close to what we had basically decided as a community, but not totally. And I just wish that we had seen 324 first, and then we could have gone with the zoning issues. And this would have given my constituents, everybody's constituents, a role in this process. They have been cut out. If 324 passes, they're cut out. And when I think of my communities, I think of the past. I think of issues where, they haven't been happy with certain zoning done in the past, et cetera. And, I've agreed with them on most of them. They've taken it to court. communities, I had Northern Baltimore County spend $350,000 raised from the people up there to fight a zoning issue. The opposition spent $1.5 million. I wonder who won. And then we had another issue where we spent like $60,000, $70,000. The opposition spent so much more. And this is, we go to court to have the people's views and positions recognized, because our system, for some reason, did not recognize what the views were of our constituency and what's good for the county, et cetera. We, as a government, have got to work with the people. We are representing the people. And I know you took it seriously when you were a delegate. We take it seriously. And in the future, I hope that situations like this don't happen again. Don't happen again. So, you know, I'm hoping that 324 will not pass, because it's taking away people's involvement in zoning. Totally taken away in certain areas. That's just not right. Not right. Just like the bill on the state level takes some of the zoning power away from the county, and the state takes that power. That's not right either. I know the state has a problem with the light rail, 12% fare box return. The state needs to do something to make it a more successful system. Well, I'm not going to get into that. So anyhow, I just said my piece.
Thank you, Councilman Ketch. Councilman Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And not to put words in, not to speak for Councilman Ketch, the question he originally asked to, and you all answered, basically asked it. The concern with, and I know you're here to talk about the master plan, but with 324, and if 324 were to pass, a property owner in the county, after the CZMP process was over, doesn't have the opportunity to then put in a request to change their zoning because they didn't realize, had we had done 324 before CZMP or before the filing period, folks would have known that they could have changed or requested their zoning change to match what 324 does. I think that was the crux of what you were trying to get at with doing it before CZMP, or at least before the filing request deadlines for all of us, so that there would be an informed, the folks that have property could have been informed about the requests and the concerns, I guess, from other members since seeing it was related to litigation or potential, I guess this is the question for you, any concerns about potential litigation related to doing this in the middle of the CZMP process, which, as Councilman Ketch said, pushes folks out that may have wanted to benefit from it for at least 3 years. And
I can't offer comments about whether there's future litigation involving this. I mean, this is a text amendment, which is not covered through CZMP, and can't argue the timing. The timing is the timing.
Right. And you did mention, and I remember we've been engaged in conversation about mixed use since getting here. I guess while I have the mic, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about some of the restrictions tied to the original idea of the nodes, that there's been some concerns around them. One, I know you've received awards, and also it's an innovative process and new idea for an approach to this. But some of the restrictions that kind of, in your mind and from the planning department, felt were already in place related to you create these nodes, but also there's restrictions that prevent overcrowding, that prevent an apartment complex, even though it might be in a node. Things that we already have in place that from your mind and from your staff's mind were already allows for accountability through a process in creating these nodes in the master plan. Am I making sense in that?
Well, yes, somewhat, no disrespect. I think what we have seen that we have a lot of aging corridors where the commercial businesses are no longer viable. The economy has changed dramatically. Reliance on brick and mortar has reduced. We see in many parts of the county, whether it's the southeast or Security Mall's an example, place on Liberty Road, that no longer are viable as the way they are. And by creating this type, we are, I think, identifying places where we believe should have the focused attention. You know, the zoning still, underlying zoning will still control if it doesn't allow certain types of retail or doesn't allow certain types of housing. You know, that's one of the reasons we think that 3-24 will open up some opportunities. So we see this is not unique in Baltimore County. We're seeing this throughout the country where communities are changing and aging and don't have the land adequately zoned to accommodate the next generation.
Got it. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Councilman Marks.
Question, Mr. Lafferty. You're probably going to hear some concerns about the Lafarge Quarry being designated as a special place in the same category as Trade Point Atlantic and UMBC Research Park. Does that designation, how does that impact what could be done during the rezoning process?
Well, if the master plan is adopted, then that designation would indicate the potential for other uses than, you know, because at the time that was established, that was prior to your legislation that enabled manufacturing or warehouse distribution logistics. It is part of the Chesapeake Enterprise Zone, and so therefore is sort of in balance with other competing needs that years ago the community supported. The special use designation doesn't prevent other uses, just recognizes it may have different uses than otherwise you might find in at least in the Middle River area.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Let me just remind everyone that this is not the work session for Bill 324 and that we are on Master Plan 2030. Although one of the reasons we are going to extend, we're likely to extend the review of the master plan is because of the convergence of Master Plan 2030, Bill 324, CZMP hearings, our budget town hall hearings. So there's a lot coming at the council at one time, and we want to be deliberative on this and make the right decisions. So we'll hear much of the same much similar testimony when we have the work session for 324, which is currently scheduled for February 20th, but likely could be extended well into March. So those are just some logistics. Just one quick question, Mr. Lafferty. On it's more process. In the draft of the master plan, was that done in-house by planners in-house, or was that done by a consultant?
The only consultant we had was at the very outset a company called Matrix that did a land use analysis of the economic potential throughout the county, and often found, frankly, that the opportunities for retail growth were very, very slim. There was some logistical need for logistical services, but I think what we've seen subsequent to that is a lot of warehousing and distribution centers that have been built that seem to still be doing well. But that's the only outside consultant. Everything else was done in-house.
So when all the data was woven into text, that was done in-house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to be clear on that.
And earlier, before we started, Jen Meacham, who heads our research group, was here along with Amy Mante. And it was really Jen Meacham's group that did most of that numbers crunching and analysis.
And both are really solid professionals. So.
Certainly are.
Any of the members have any additional questions? We've spent a lot of time on this. Why don't we move right to, thank you, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you.
Why don't we move right to folks that have signed up to speak? So I'll turn it over to Ms. Belcastro to orchestrate.
Our first speaker, Mr. Chair, is Thomas Pilon. Mr. Pilon, you are on, and you may begin your testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Thomas Pilon, Executive Vice President of Development for St. John Properties. St. John owns and operates, leases, and manages over 23 million square feet of commercial, office, industrial, and multifamily buildings in 11 states throughout the country. We maintain our corporate offices here in Baltimore County where we were founded, and we've invested nearly $1 billion in Baltimore County, comprising 5 million square feet of leasable space, housing nearly 600 tenant companies. My department pays close attention to planning and legislative initiatives at the federal, state, and local levels that might impact our ability to lease and operate our buildings for their intended purposes. In addition to my role at St. John, I've served as the chair of the NAIOP Maryland Legislative Committee for the past 15 years. And over my 30 years in the industry, I've reviewed hundreds of pieces of legislation concerning all manners of real estate matters. I've served on numerous committees and work groups, including various planning committees in Baltimore, Howard, Anne Arundel, and Carroll counties. Our Baltimore County properties are principally located in the MLIM zone. Per the draft master plan, much of that land is zoned, or is it located in areas that are mapped as connected neighborhoods and established neighborhood. The descriptions for those two land use categories do not include industrial uses. Since our parks are principally developed as flex parks, which house light industrial uses, office and commercial uses, meaning that they would be incompatible with the visions put forth by the master plan. We're concerned about that, and we'd ask that in order to address those concerns, the council act to ensure that existing and proposed commercial, office, industrial, and mixed-use properties and the full complement of uses allowed in the retail zoning districts, in the related zoning districts, are supported by the master plan now and in the future. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. Pilon. Any members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share? Okay, thanks again, Mr. Pilon. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Rob Allmiller. Mr. Allmiller, you are on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Good evening. My name is Rob Allmiller, and I'm a Baltimore County resident and local real estate professional. I previously provided testimony to the planning board members and the county council, and I'm speaking again today to reiterate my concerns. I believe the changes implemented by the planning board are imperative to the plan's success, and I urge the council to support all the planning board revisions. Additionally, I want to express my support for further revisions to the master plan, which will provide clarity to the plan. These revisions include 10 amendments, which are included in a PDF document that the building community sent to the council members, and which I also previously emailed to each council member. These amendments include requiring the plan to be in printable format, amending commonly used terms, revising place type maps and definitions, requiring any future revisions must be approved by the county council, and clarifying that vision framework goals are aspirational but not mandated. The proposed master plan acknowledges that the county is quickly becoming fully built out inside the URDL. This has already led to skyrocketing housing costs and more recently a decline in population as growth is pushed to surrounding areas. The master plan proposes that future growth in the county must come from retrofitting or redevelopment in identified nodes. While the plan identifies these nodes theoretically best suited for redevelopment, the plan hasn't yet studied these areas to determine if they have the infrastructure, land availability, or community support to accommodate redevelopment and increase density. My fear is that current and proposed APFO restrictions will prevent any redevelopment or growth from occurring in these identified nodes. This would leave the county with virtually no opportunities for future housing or economic growth over the next 10 years and result in a further decline of housing affordability, population, and economic opportunity for residents. APFO regulations must be altered to support the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allmiller. Any questions, comments, or thoughts anyone like to share with Mr. Allmiller? Okay, hearing none, thank you so much. And Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to note that David Adler was the next registered speaker, but he was on earlier, but it looks like he is no longer on. So I'm going to go to the next speaker, who is Catherine Sant. Bear with me one moment. Ms. Sapp, you are on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. My name is Kate Samt, and I am with Not Realty Group. You may recall that I spoke during the January 16th public hearing, and I just wanted to reiterate some of the concerns that we shared at that time. As a Baltimore County-based developer, Not Realty Group has more than 1 million square feet of industrial property in the county, and we are incredibly concerned about the exclusion of industrial uses in this plan. As I mentioned at the January 16th hearing, many of the county's industrial redevelopment and infill opportunities lie within existing and connected neighborhoods, which as defined may be construed to prohibit industrial. We again ask that you please review how place types are defined and treated with specific consideration given to industrial uses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sapp. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Ms. Sapp? Hearing none, next speaker, please, Ms. Belcastro.
Our next speaker is Lynn Mitchell. You're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Good evening. Thank you, County Council members, for hearing us tonight. My name is Lynn Mitchell, and I'm the president of Eastwood Residents and Community Association of Baltimore County. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of several communities, including Eastwood, Berkshire, Colgate, Harborview. And I have to tell you, what I've heard from Mr. Lafferty this evening is very, very frightening. I can tell you that from speaking to all of these communities, District 7 has opened its heart to rental price. There are probably no other areas, or maybe one other in the whole county that has as many rental properties as we do now. And, you know, when you look at the infrastructure and the crowding, and I'm not sure any of you are aware of this, there are 2 hospitals that serve this whole side, and they all have a 52-hour emergency room waiting period now. So to redevelop these areas with 6 retrofit nodes for apartments next to our small communities, what we're wondering is why Baltimore County isn't looking to incentivize families to owner occupy and buy homes in these older communities. You want to add more rentals to our area. When I moved here 20 years ago, we were only 20% rentals. Now we're 50% rentals, and people are moving out of Baltimore County due to this reason. It's very, very hard for us to understand how this walkability factor means everything to where these apartments and mixed-use residences are going to be. Because as far as we can look at, we'd like to see Baldwin, Kingville, Hunt Valley, Perry Hall, Lutherville, Timonium, Falls Road, Spark, Hereford, Kearney, Cub Hill, Gunpowder, Milford Mill, Pasco, Woods, Garrison, Hampton, and Towson all take on their share of these mixed-use retro nodes and stop putting all these rental properties in the Dundalk-Essex corridor. We are overwhelmed with people. You can't get to Eastern Avenue coming from work. You can't get down Merritt Boulevard. There's no shopping here because the median income is so low. Because of why? Because all we have are rental properties, and all the good, hard-working homeowner families are moving out. We'd like you to help us keep our older neighborhoods, not add more rental properties for transient. I mean, this is very upsetting to all these people who love these communities and have lived here for years. We're very concerned.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Anyone have any questions, comments, or thoughts?
I just want to thank Ms. Mitchell. I want to thank her for her testimony.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts for Ms. Mitchell? Okay, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, Mr. Chair, is Michael Greenspun. Mr. Greenspun, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Patoka and other members of the council. I am Michael Greenspun, and I have been a developer in Baltimore County for 23 years, and I'm currently chair of the MBIA Baltimore County chapter. The Master Plan 2030 is an ambitious plan that has elements I support and issues that concern me. It was improved by the planning board's changes, and those should definitely be included in the final version. Members of my industry will be commenting on a number of other desired changes, so I will focus my comments on just a few areas. First, this master plan is touted as being a living document with intimations that it can and will be regularly updated, amended, and adjusted throughout the duration of its effective life. While updates, amendments, and adjustments to the plan may be appropriate from time to time, the notion that they can be done on the fly or administratively by the Department of Planning or any other entity other than the Planning Board and County Council should not be implied in the document. Instead, it should be made clear that any changes to the plan must be made through the appropriate legal processes, which require review and approval by the Planning Board and County Council. I was heartened to hear Director Lafferty agree with this. Similarly, there are references to an implementation page for the plan that will apparently be created after the master plan is adopted. Any subsequent amendment to the plan, including the addition of this section, would be required to follow the same process. Secondly, the vision framework establishes the goals for the future long-range development of a sustainable Baltimore County. This is a common aspect of master plans throughout the state, which include a host of aspirational aspects to frame potential paths forward in implementing the plan. Given the vast extent of these goals and actions, it cannot be reasonably expected that all of them will be accomplished during the duration of the plan. They are mandates. They are not requirements. They are aspirational goals, and they cannot be construed to hamstring every single action taken in the county following adoption of the master plan. Many of the vision framework actions would require new development or redevelopment to adhere to admirable and idealistic goals, but without exact guidance and vastly more specification codified into the law, they cannot possibly be a binding prescription for development. The contents of the vision framework constitute a starting point for new laws, not an ending point for constraining development. Land use decisions concerning individual parcels or projects should not be required to conform to the vision framework, and instead should be evaluated on a case-by-case basis through applicable development approval procedures. Otherwise, no subdivision will ever be in compliance with Master Plan 2030 and therefore receive approval. Lastly, I would urge the council to keep the growth framework nodes intact for potential future mixed-use development, as that very use is perfectly compatible with the node concept. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspun. Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Greenspun? Hearing none, again, thank you, Mr. Greenspun. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly. I just wanted to note our next registered speaker was Alex Andelsman. Mr. Andelsman was on, but he is not on the WebEx meeting yet. Our next speaker after that is Steve Smith. Mr. Smith, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Terrible light. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Steve Smith. I am a lifetime Baltimore County resident and real estate professional. The Master Plan 2030 is an ambitious plan that is well thought, but it has a number of issues that do concern me. I believe the changes implemented by the Planning Board are imperative to the plan's success, and I urge the Council to support all of the Planning Board revisions. Additionally, and in order to provide clarity, I want to express my support for further revisions to the Master Plan. These revisions include 10 amendments, which are included in a PDF document that the building community has sent to the Council members, and which I previously emailed to each of you. These amendments include requiring the plan to be in printable format, revising place type maps, requiring that any future revisions be approved by the County Council, clarifying that revision framework goals are aspirational but not mandated, and updating the definitions of existing and connected neighborhoods to accurately state the existing conditions and types of development that can be expected in these areas. The master plan recognizes that the county is close to being built out within the ERDL. The plan proposes that future growth in the county come from redevelopment in identified nodes. I am concerned that due to lack of infrastructure, limited school capacity, and community opposition, these retrofit nodes will be unable or unwilling to accept growth. Already, certain council members have voiced their concerns and indicated that they want to remove land from the nodes, potentially rendering the whole concept meaningless. This would leave the county with virtually no opportunities for future growth and or additional housing over the next 10 years and result in a further decline in housing affordability, population, and economic opportunity for residents. In closing, I urge the council to adhere to the recommendations of the planning board and to implement the proposed 10 amendments which provide clarity and help avoid ambiguities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Smith? Well, if I could just add a fun fact about Steve Smith. Steve Smith is an outstanding softball player. Fun fact.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, Izzy.
Okay, thanks again, Steve. The next speaker, please, Ms. Belcastro.
Our next speaker is Stephen Seibel. Mr. Seibel, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Thank you. Good evening, Councilman. Thank you for your time. My name is Steve Seibel. I'm a partner with Caves Valley Partners, which is headquartered here in Baltimore County. It seems to me that development is drying up in Baltimore County for a number of reasons. There's not one crane in the sky, and that will eventually lead to a tax increase, which none of us want. To encourage development, the development community needs certainty and flexibility. Therefore, I request that you consider amending the master plan per the NAIOP and MBIA suggestions. I think you are all familiar with how active we have been in Baltimore County over the years. We currently have projects in many areas, including Carroll County, Garrett County, even two in Scottsdale, Arizona, and over 1 million square feet under development in Baltimore City. But for the first time in our over 30-year careers, we have 0 projects in Baltimore County. 0, not even one under contract. The current master plan as drafted will not help solve this problem. So I ask you to please consider adopting the NAIOP and MBIA recommendations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Seibel. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Mr. Seibel? Okay, hearing none, thanks again, Mr. Seibel and Ms. Belcastro. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Robert Bendler. Mr. Bendler, you're on as a panelist. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Doesn't seem to be working. Now, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
My name's Robert Bendler, and I am the president of the Essex Middleborough Civic Council. I'd like to make 2 points regarding the master plan. The first is, in the master plan, you'll note that there is one small area plan that is outlined in some detail. And we would like to see that plan, which is the Middle River Small Area Plan, initiated as soon as possible and made the highest possible priority. In a meeting with the county executive not too long ago, he actually committed to making that his first small area plan. I'd like to make sure that between the council and the Civic Council, we can encourage him to live up to that promise. The second thing that I would like to mention deals with Lafarge. As you know, it wasn't long ago that this council rejected a PUD that would have put warehouses on that site. As you're also aware, the site is currently zoned RC8. Steve Lafferty's correct. It's in the enterprise zone. It went in the enterprise zone not too many years ago, but back when it was MH, heavy manufacturing. When it was changed to resource conservation, RC8, it should have been removed from the enterprise zone because enterprise zones should not be applied to resource conservation land. However, it was never removed. It should be now. And the fact that that is mislabeled for that area shouldn't be a reason to call for it to be warehouse consistent with Trade Point Atlantic. The second point I'd like to make, and I'd like hopefully Steve Lafferty or the county council personnel to research this. There is such a thing, or at least it used to be when I worked for the county, as the Baltimore County Mine Reclamation Plan, which is required before any development can occur on a mine that's being reclaimed. One of the interesting things I remember from that, and maybe Izzy will also from his time in the planning office, was that that plan is bound to be consistent with the current master plan. And if the master plan calls for it to be special use, manufacturing or warehouse, then that's the only plan that can be approved, or only component of development that can be approved as part of that reclamation plan. So I don't think anyone has submitted a mine reclamation plan in probably 20 years, but somebody needs to look and see how this identification of special use could restrict the ability to properly develop or not develop and preserve that land. So there are my two comments. I very much appreciate it if you would change the designation for Lafarge and let it be controlled to a certain extent by the Middle River Plan. If the Middle River Plan indicates that there are appropriate uses for that everyone agrees to, fine. But let the plan determine that and not some designation set on it by the master plan without proper study. So thank you for listening to me again. I also, if I might, I'd like to comment that we, the communities, do have some serious concerns about the well-intentioned bill 4-24 or 3, what is it? The mixed use bill. It's well-intentioned, but I really do think it needs to be further vetted, and it ought to run through the full planning board review process before it comes to the council. So referring it to them may be an option you would like to consider. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bendler, for your insights. Any of the members have any questions? Councilman Marks.
Mr. Lafferty, do you have any comments on the timing of the small area plans, especially regarding Middle River?
We currently have the draft RFP that's going through the internal system. We hope to have an RFP that we can get on the street in the near future, but a lot of it's going to depend on that.
Understood. Thank you very much, and thank the county executive as well.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Any additional questions for Mr. Bendler? Okay, thanks again, Bob. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker, please.
Certainly. Our next speaker is Bruce Knopf, who is here by telephone. Bear with me one moment. Mr. Knopf, you are on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yes, we in our neighborhoods are concerned with Bill 324. I'll try to be brief. The council needs to retain control of multi-use development. These decisions that are being made about what can be placed in the hurdles and in the nodes is big stuff, and we need to make sure that we get it right. The council doesn't have an adequate public facilities ordinance, and the council needs to reconsider or needs to consider already congested traffic areas, road conditions, overcrowded schools, old infrastructure, and public safety, the fact that there aren't enough fire and police personnel to cover everywhere. Too often, the developers are getting their way and have for some time, even under the previous administration in the county. The already populous node areas of the county don't need or won't are getting short shrift when it comes to developers' plans for more commercial development, including many rental units for residents, instead of, say, townhouses that residents will invest in or individual homes. I speak also for, not only for myself, but for the Towson Communities Alliance, which voted in its last meeting with regard to the present status of Bill 324 to voice its opposition to it unless it is extended. Let me get my wording straight here. Unless it is amended or added to take into consideration these concerns about impacts upon the neighborhood and the quality of life around the nodes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knopf. Any members have questions, comments? Councilman Ertel.
Thank you, Bruce.
Any other members? Mr. Knopf, thank you. They're all fair comments. Just want to remind you there will be another hearing for Bill 324, likely in late February to March. So stay tuned.
February 20th?
Well, if we don't extend it, it'll be February 20th, but there's a possibility, a good possibility, that it'll be either on the 27th of February or the 12th of March. So stay tuned.
Okay, sure will. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you. Ms. Belkester, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Mark Lee. We have a Mark as an attendee with no last name. I'm hoping it's
Somebody's
him.
approaching now. Mark, come on up.
Oh, he's in person. My apologies. I didn't see that.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Mark Lee, and I am a resident of West Towson. I've lived in Baltimore County for well over 50 years. My testimony is simple. I am in strong opposition to County Executive Johnny Olszewski's flagrant and roughshod attempt to usurp the very transparency that he claimed he would uphold as a county executive candidate by circumventing the county council's authority. It has been 7 years since I have testified in front of the county council. To paraphrase Sigourney Weaver in the movie Aliens, did IQs just drop sharply while I was away? The county executive wants developers to have more power and more access. There are only 2 words to describe what he is trying to do to the county: unacceptable and outrageous. Lest anyone forget, and I quote Johnny O's county executive webpage, he has stated that he has worked in the private sector, where he partnered with governments to help prevent fraud, enhance public safety, improve program performance, and enable greater transparency. As county exec, he is focused on making government more transparent and more accountable. What exactly is the issue with transparency in this county? Why is this even a topic of discussion? The incredulous controversy over Inspector General Kelly Madigan's authority to oversee county behavior is unbelievably galling to anyone with a pulse. This current issue is simply a further distillation of special interest trying to quash the common sense of the people. I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe where wrong is masquerading as right, where darkness is trotting around as transparency. All of this nonsense needs to stop, and stop now. All you are doing is stirring the citizens' anger over a government that just can't do the right thing. Make no mistake, a significant percentage of people are justifiably upset over this legislation. This is why people mistrust politics and politicians, because they often do what so many of us know is wrong. Do the right thing, if not for the very essence of morality, then simply because the county and the media are all watching. Our Towson community went to the mat and fought hard to rid Towson Gateway of the Royal Farms gas station. We will get the band back together to fight this issue, and we will fight it hard, except we is no longer limited to the Towson residents, but will encompass all of Baltimore County. To County Council members Todd Crandall, David Marks, and Wade Hatch, thank you so very much for opposing this ridiculous legislation. To the other council members who are either undecided or who are in support of this is your legacy. Make sure you leave a good one, if only to ensure that history remembers you as the good guys that we all know you want to be. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Lee? Hearing none, Ms. Belkester, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, who is virtual, my apologies for the mix-up with the last one, is David Conrad.
Okay.
Mr. Conrad, you are on as a panelist. You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Del Castro, Council Chair and Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. I wanted to speak tonight on behalf of the Bowlers Quarters Improvement Association. Some of you may remember that I testified a little earlier this month to the master plan. At the time, originally, we had been working in the BQIA to advocate for the extension of some of the core retrofit areas within our community. Unfortunately, however, in light of the pending legislation with Bill 3-24, the BQIA no longer feels that it would be appropriate to extend that at this time within our community. We very much appreciate all the hard work that Director Lafferty and the planning staff have put into the master plan. However, we have asked Councilman Marks to oppose the placement of the current core retrofit areas within our community as currently outlined by the Master Plan 2030 until such a time that we can determine the long-term effects that this pending legislation and how it will tie into our community will have in the future. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate Councilman Marks, your support on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Conrad? Hearing none, again, thank you, Mr. Conrad. Ms. Belkester, next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Kathleen Bedell, who is here in person.
Good evening, Council President Petrocca and the County Councilman. My name is Kathleen Bedell, and I am a lifelong resident of Timonium and currently the president of the Greater Timonium Community Council. And I've been a community leader since 1990 for 34 years. I would like to talk to you about a few of the aspects of this Master Plan 2030 that I find most different from ones in the past. Having actively participated in the last 3 master plan work groups and community meetings, it seems odd to me that this 2030 master plan has so many people unhappy with it, even though so many of us helped in the process. Like Mr. Lafferty said, that the master plan is said to be aspirational. I was told that the master plan is a vision for the next 10 years and could be used as guidelines for the future needs and aspects of Baltimore County, so that Baltimore County might need to have these aspirations in place to stay in good shape and be sustainable. I believe that the master plan would take into account the residents and local businesses' needs to keep viable and thriving. And yes, that would include the importance of having adequate public facilities and the need for increasing their capacity if we're going to attract and retain residents and businesses here in Baltimore County. But instead, this 2030 master plan seems to provide a concrete tool to pro-development, high-density apartments, and pro-urbanization developers. The county administration actually ties their proposed bill 3-24 directly to the specifically created nodes located in the Master Plan 2030, as if a master plan can mandate areas of zoning to specifically expedite future redevelopment. Specifically, these nodes created by Master Plan 2030 are officially designated areas that proposed Bill 324 states a developer shall be able to do mixed-use development by right, without regard for overcrowded schools, roads, and overburdened sewer capacity. Where does Baltimore County Master Plan 2030 call for the need for improved, adequate public facilities to support future growth in the next 10 years? I'm confused by this and very discouraged. I look to my county elected officials to be strong and to protect the people who live and work in our areas of Baltimore County, including Timonium. Please be strong and do the right thing to correct this massive plan, and please keep the power of zoning in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bedell. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Ms. Bedell? Hearing none, thank you again. Thank you for 30 years of working with your community.
May I ask a question just about
Sure.
something you've said?
Yes.
I know it's probably not against the rules, but you guys have mentioned changing the work session of February 13th that's scheduled for 3-24.
Yes.
And I've worked really hard to get this room pretty darn packed that night. If you were to have that and your further master plan hearing the same night, I'm afraid y'all be here till pretty late at night. So I'm thinking maybe not rearranging 324 from the 13th, if you would consider.
Let me just share with you, Ms. Bedell, there's a lot of moving parts here. And some of the members believe, including myself, that the 324 needs to wait on the master plan. And so if the master plan is delayed, then that would actually, it'd be a domino effect, which would delay 324. But what we will do is we'll make sure that staff reaches out to you, and any changes will notify you as well as anyone else here that the work session has moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Mr. Chair, is Eric Rockel, who is here in person.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I come here tonight to speak about Master Plan 2030. I've spoken about it at the two previous council hearings on the thing. I'm not going to deal with the micro issues of the nodes, other than to say that if you look at the clear, plain language in the master plan and what it purports the nodes to do, in my estimation, the size of the nodes, the scope of the nodes, at least in this York Road corridor, are very much broad brushed and not targeted enough to target specific redevelopment opportunities. Make no mistake, I'm not against redevelopment, but I think the county council needs to think very seriously about the size of some of these nodes in the York Road corridor. Now, on a more macro look at the master plan, and I'm specifically here in quoting from the growth framework section of the plan, it states in the document, automobile dependency, strip malls, miles of paved and otherwise impervious service, lack of physical and social connections are negative outcomes typical of the suburban experience. I'm sorry, I don't accept that kind of viewpoint. And I think that viewpoint permeates throughout the underlying philosophy of the master plan. I recognize that Baltimore County has a diversity of land uses, diversity of different societal components, a diversity of thought, and I embrace all that diversity. I don't want to see us being pigeonholed into only trying to promote a more urban experience for Baltimore County. That will come. That's evolution, so to speak. But we should be embracing and encouraging our agricultural zones, our light industrial zones, and every zone in between, including, especially since I live in one, a suburban zone. You know, Maryland has been proclaimed America in miniature. Well, if that's the case, Baltimore County can certainly be proclaimed Maryland in miniature because we have all of that diversity. And unfortunately, I think the plan does not do enough to recognize and promote the diversity. One final thought is, as several speakers have mentioned tonight, if we pass any sort of core retrofit area component in the master plan, we definitely need more attunement to the adequate public facilities issue. That's imperative before anything can happen with regard to retrofit areas. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Does any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Mr. Rockwell?
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Always good to see you.
Good to see
you. 2
you,
nights in a row now, right?
Pardon?
I said 2 nights in a row now.
Well, not that I don't want to, but let's not make it 3, okay?
People will start to talk. Okay, is that our last speaker? Oh, that was the penultimate speaker. We have one more.
We have one more speaker, Mr. Chair.
I always try to find a way.
Our next and final speaker for this evening is Stephen Whalen, who is here in person.
Thank you for giving me the chance to address my bladder, which is 73 years old.
Good evening, Mr. Whalen.
Mr. Chair, always a pleasure. Members of the council, it's great to see you. The proposed master plan needs to recognize the importance of UMBC and its adjacent surroundings as critical to the success of Southwest Baltimore County and, frankly, the entire Southwest Baltimore metropolitan region. Finally, including the newly enlarged UMBC campus as a special use was a nice gesture, but what does it mean? What's the practical impact? Per my discussions very recently with the county executive staff, I thought there was agreement that there should be a nexus between the 2030 master plan and the proposed mixed-use bill 324. Haven't we spent a lot of time that you didn't figure we were going to be spending tonight on 324, but the two are really inextricably intertwined, as you know. But to the subject, but to the subject of today's comments, shouldn't the 2030 master plan itself reflect that nexus by discussing the importance of supporting, encouraging, and abetting the intelligent redevelopment of UMBC's 175-acre Spring Grove acquisition and supportive development of adjacent BM-zoned private property nearby? And as I think most of you know, I bring that up because much of that is Whalen Properties. Let's please not put the cart before the horse here and make certain that the master plan thoughtfully anticipates and perhaps even tries to influence what should be happening on this property over the next decade. It's that important to that part of Baltimore County. And where I absolutely understand what Mr. Lafferty was saying about the generality of the plan, this piece of property and what happens there is so important to our area that it deserves to be addressed specifically within the master plan and its guidance. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts for Mr. Whalen?
Thank you.
Can I do a fun fact, Mr. Whalen? No, I'm just kidding.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Whalen for using the word inextricably. Yes. Well, but you used it correctly. The word means impossible to disentangle or separate. Very, very good. Thank you, sir.
Those are all fun facts about Mr. Whalen. One of the things I will say, Mr. Whalen, you must have read the 2010 master plan because those two words were used throughout that master plan. Yes, perhaps. Well, thanks, everyone. We're going to shift over. We're going to segue to fiscal matters. And so in fiscal matters, we're going to start with Major Glenn Wydick. Thank you for waiting, Mr. Wydick. I hope you found the testimony interesting. Good. And,
Mr. Chair, County Council members, I come before you for a contract with Airbus to train our pilots. We currently have 3 Airbus helicopters. One of the new one that you've approved was just delivered today at 4 o'clock. So we have that helicopter in place. As part of the FAA rules and our insurance company's policies, the pilots have to be trained yearly by Airbus to meet the requirements for both the aviation side and safety side. It's a 5-year contract for $182,000. It is a sole source contract. We have strictly Airbus helicopters. Airbus would be the one that we required since it's proprietary software and such to train the pilots. The council approved the 5-year contract in 2019 that just expired in December of last year. So we're just simply trying to get another 5-year contract to keep everyone trained. The county has 8 pilots. It's cheaper to bring the people here to train the 8 pilots than to try to shuttle them back and forth.
Thank you, Major. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Major Wydick? Thanks again. Appreciate you waiting. Next item is from the Fire Department, a contract with Whitmer Safety Group, and we have Craig Bittinger.
Mr. President, council members, thank you. The Baltimore County Fire Department is requesting council's approval to add preventive maintenance, repairs, and annual testing to self-contained breathing apparatus to the existing supplier contract with Whitmer Public Safety Group. In the past, the department only procured commodities from the vendor. However, with the additional need for testing services and repairs, which may exceed $25,000 a year, County Council's approval is required. What put us in this position was when we had one of our BA techs resign and move on to other employment, and the other one is currently in a no-pay status. So that left us in a position to where we couldn't repair them. So we had to go to an outside vendor. And they've been there every other week to make sure that our breathing apparatus is repaired and tested as required by the NFPA.
Thank you, Mr. Bittinger. Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts to share with Mr. Bittinger? Hearing none, thanks again, and thank you for waiting. Next speaker is Lawrence Richardson from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Good evening, Chairman Platoka, members of the council. The administration is seeking your approval for a contract with Key Point Health Services to expand the number of our residential rehabilitation program beds in the county. We are expanding by 6 beds in the county. This is a no-cost contract to the county. The Maryland Public Behavioral Health System Administrative Services Organization will reimburse the contractor directly for services via Medicaid. This is a one-year contract with 4 one-year renewals. So the purpose of this agreement is to provide and to expand the number of residential rehabilitation beds operating in Baltimore County by 6. These beds are available to anyone who receives Medicaid and has a mental health diagnosis. The local Behavioral Health Administration, Baltimore County Department of Health, monitors this contract just to make sure that the vendor is in compliance. So that's in a follow-up to the question the auditors did ask is how do we monitor? We monitor based on COMAR, and what is written within COMAR is that the residential rehabilitation program should serve individuals with a mental health disorder, provide a house-like supportive residential environment, and then provide services for no more than 3 individuals and have on-site staffing as needed to meet the needs of these individuals, along with on-call staff provided 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And our local behavioral health authority does perform annual site inspections and stay in regular communication with Key Point in order to make sure they're in compliance with the contract. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson, and thank you for addressing the auditor's questions. Any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share with Mr. Richardson? Hearing none. Oh, whoop. Councilman Ertel.
One quick question, Deputy Director Richardson. These beds, do we know where they are? Are they spread out across the county in different facilities, or do we know how are they?
So this expansion right now is on the eastern side of the county. Don't know exactly. The way the program works, these are homes that are owned. Key Point will then interact with the landlord. So it's not exactly facility. These are actual residential homes. So these 6 beds currently will be in the eastern part of the county. We don't know exactly where. It depends on real estate and that function.
And Mr. I just wanted to, since I have you here, between now and we take a vote on the fiscal matter, we'd love to get together with you and talk more about, 1, the program, 2, what we're doing from the county and partnering with the state in meeting their obligations. So I just wanted to put that out there so we can touch base after.
Definitely. Okay. Mr. Councilman, I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chair, I do.
Councilman Crandall.
So Key Point Health Services, 1 location in Catonsville, I think 2 locations in Dundalk.
Right.
And the ones in Dundalk, I think, are in commercial areas like Dundalk Avenue, North Point Road. Is that where these beds are?
No, that's actually the treatment facilities where
themselves. Okay.
Themselves. We're calling them 6 beds, but they're actually would be in residents' homes. So these are rental properties that Key Point then rents out in order to provide the beds. This is to help people transition out of the hospital.
Okay. And so the homes are managed by Key Point. Is there, I'm just curious because I don't know about their operation. Is there a house manager, so to speak, or how do they operate?
So depending on the level of care that the client would need, that is dictated, but there is always 24/7 on call. And if there is a need for someone to be in the home, that would also be assessed. And that's part of what the local Behavioral Health Administration is making sure that Key Point is in compliance with.
Okay, and there, I put away the fiscal note, but there's a number of these, as you call them, beds in Baltimore County, and we are seeking 6 more. So this is something already around Baltimore County in 50 or 60 or so?
Correct. And so this expansion is the first expansion in Baltimore County in over 20 years. There was a statewide moratorium on the expansion of beds. The Behavioral Health Administration in the state has now come back and begun licensing or allowing these vendors, such as Key Point, to obtain more beds in the community. So our 6 beds are along with 40 other beds that have been allowed in Harford County and Anne Arundel County throughout the state. They've expanded.
Okay, but no information as of now as to where these 6 additional would go. I mean, obviously we haven't approved it yet, so okay. Just questions, and these are patients seeking psychiatric and behavioral health care?
Correct. These are patients who would be being released from the hospital and still continue to have the wraparound services provided by Key Point and monitored by the BHA.
Thank you for your answers. Appreciate
Councilman Young.
Mr. Chairman, just correct me if I'm wrong, but also these patients that would be, the current ones in the system and the 6 additional beds, they have to be on Medicaid, and they already have been vetted through other processes. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to engage with these folks, I'd like some care, and get it. They have already been vetted through Medicaid.
Exactly. They are already receiving Medicaid.
Great. So for what it's worth, just wanted to put that out there, that the program's good, and just wanted to, there is other levels outside of the state that are also vetting folks and making sure that they're eligible for the program.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Well, thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you.
And we have saved the best for last. Don't take offense, Mr. Richardson. We have, for those remaining in chamber. Yeah. Well, great minds think alike, right?
That's right.
Okay, Deb Schendel.
Good evening, Councilman, Chair, and members of the council. The administration is asking for an approval of 2 contracts, one with Brutus Associates and the other with Whitney Bailey Cox and Maney. Were selected by the Professional Service Selection Committee on March 6, 2023 to provide feasibility studies, investigations, reports, project estimates, designs, and construction documents to be performed for construction administration on all types of Baltimore County-owned buildings and facilities. This is a contract with a 2-year term from the date of execution and 2 one additional years for 2 years, if I said that right. This is a contract that had a 23% MBE. The maximum upset limit per consultant is $750,000. Brutus is actually an NBE prime that was awarded this contract. It was selected obviously through the PSSC, through a competitive bid, best value, experience, and best qualified. We utilize this contract. It is for a structural engineer service. If we, and it happens, have a car go through one of our facilities, we need to call an emergency structural engineer to confirm that the actual structure is safe, and then we can board it up so that we can use the facility, or we go in and say we cannot use the facility. We also have used a structural engineer or needed them when we have something going on in one of the facilities that we're not sure whether the foundation or the walls are structurally sound. And before we do any repair, we want to first make sure that we have a structural engineer looking at it, and then they help design the repair so it's permanent. And in my testimony, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schindel. Do any of the members have any questions, comments, or thoughts they'd like to share? Hearing none, I think this concludes our work session. Thank you, Ms. Schindel, for staying to the very end. And thanks to everyone that's still here for staying to the very end.